What are you going to do with those pies, boys?
Okay, welcome to another episode of the Big Monster Briefing Room. I am General Lemuel Howitzer, retired, and of course I have my able-bodied assistant here, Millie Hazzard, Major Millie Hazzard.
Always able-bodied. As you can see, I was riding Mothra here, so that takes a lot of able-bodied. I do love your gnome, your decapitated gnome. A shout out to Diane Coll. She is the performer and songwriter from our theme song, and she also is the gift giver of the decapitated gnome.
That is true, and I thought he was furry. I thought he was appropriate. A lot of there's a movie where a British guy, I think it's what's one where they all get naked.
I think they always get naked in European movies. Europeans love naked all the time.
Anyway, it's about the guys that are dancing, and there's a scene where they go full Monty. That's it, the full Monty. There's a guy that really likes gnomes in that, so I thought this would be apropos for today's show because we're talking about werewolves and London. So
exactly. Does it taste any different in the gnome cup?
Well, no. Well, I've got the disappointing peach tea this time, which tastes like peach pits. But other than that, no, it doesn't taste any different. I can put a whole 20 ounces in it though, which is good. I don't have to pour more in.
It has ample space for a gnome. A gnome is bigger than you'd think. There's ample space in that gnome for the peach tea, and you can make ample noises.
It's an expansive gnome with no cranium on top. But I have to tell you, I'm looking at myself now in the full black outfit, which I put on for this because it's werewolves we're talking about. My tactical black gear, and I'm thinking I look like a Pizza Hut delivery guy. And there's nothing wrong with that. They might fight werewolves too. Who knows? Anyway. Let's bring up our guest, our expert in everything that's furry, Alan Hops.
Hello, wow. Hi everybody. It's good to be on.
I see you're in your domicile there.
I am. I'm in my office. My office looks like Castle Grayskull. My back wall is painted like Castle Grayskull. There's some werewolf masks up there.
You have the power.
This wall has a lot of King Kong memorabilia.
There you go.
Some other stuff. Yeah, I like monsters.
We just talked about King Kong Escapes the last show, and that went very well.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, what do you think of the new opening, by the way, for season 3?
It's awesome. I love it. I saw the Monster Squad in there, and I've got a big Monster Squad print right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also put the Godzilla getting the tree shoved down his throat by King Kong for you.
Eat your vegetables, kids. That's right.
You asked us for it, we gave it to you.
Yeah, that's
because you're one of our favorite people.
That's my favorite Godzilla King Kong scene ever.
We're doing King Kong versus Godzilla later in the season, so everything that's in that promo is going to be in the show in this season. So that's my thing now. Is every time we start a new season, I'll do a new promo with stuff from that season.
That's awesome.
So yeah. So, okay, so let's get to talking about, this is one of your favorite werewolf movies.
It is, yes. All right, so it's complicated. This is one of my favorite werewolf movies. My second least favorite werewolf.
Okay.
That we'll go into later.
Okay, yeah. Well, again, I have to say, when they do finally show you the werewolf at the end of the movie, it's very fast. It was very tough for me to screenshot shots of the werewolf for this timeline at the end of the movie because it's very, very quick shots, very snap editing, and it's very tough to see the werewolf. There are a couple of shots that are very dark where you actually see the werewolf's face. It is a werewolf on all fours in this, so it's more like a wolf.
It would be, if the movie was The Beast of Gavignon, then it would be perfect.
Okay, you need to tell us about that now.
Oh, okay. Well, so that is that's like one of the most famous like real werewolf stories.
Okay.
Where it plagued the countryside for like 3 years. And Beast of Gavignon, there's over 200 like confirmed like notes written about it in courthouses and stuff of people that it killed. And there's this big mystery as far as what it was. It wasn't a lion because people knew what lions looked like. And they think it may have been some kind of a giant like spotted hyena that escaped from some noble person's bestiary. That's like their best guess as far as what it actually was. But it terrorized the countryside for years. Like the king sent huntsmen after it. This was 1700s.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask you that. What timeline are we looking at here? What time area?
Yeah.
Okay. And Gavignon sounds very French.
Yes.
The Beast of Gavignon.
Gevaudan. Yes, that's what it is. And it was on all fours. You know, it had a long tail, and they had such a hard time finding it that they thought, well, during the daytime it must turn into a person. You know, like that was their rationale. It must not be an animal during the daytime and only, you know, at nighttime, because it did a lot of its killing during the day. It specialized in killing people who were watching flocks of sheep. So they're already out in the wilderness, you know, and it didn't go after the sheep, it went after the people.
Hence the werewolf reference. It must be a wolf because, the people are close to sheep in wolf's clothing.
And they, like historically, that legend, that story is one of the reasons why wolves were so persecuted all throughout Europe, and why their numbers dropped way down, because like it gave them such bad PR that
it just takes one. It just takes one.
Yeah.
And one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. Okay.
And there's a movie that was made about it, and it has the name has nothing to do with it. Something about his brother. The guy from Iron Chef, he's in it as a tough guy.
Okay.
Very complicated.
Well, I'll have to look it up.
Yes. Well, let's talk about this movie.
Okay, so let's get in our timeline. It is a Universal picture. Most of the werewolf, vampire, Frankenstein movies come from Universal. And again, we go right into it with the title card. In this movie, Landis plays a lot of songs that contain moon in it. Blue Moon, Bad Moon Rising. There's just a lot of them.
It's a little on the nose, but it works. You know, Moon Dance is also in there.
Yeah, Moon Dance. There we go. That's the one I was trying to think of. And we have Griffin Dunne, the youngest Griffin Dunne we've ever seen, and David Naughton, who lost his job as the Dr. Pepper rep because of all the nudity he did in this film, which was a lot. Because when you're a werewolf, you wake up naked.
That happens.
Basically, you don't know what happened the night before, and you wake up. In this case, he wakes up in a zoo in the wolf cage in one scene.
It does make you immune to the walk of shame. You have to get home naked so often.
But I'm glad that somebody brought that to the attention of. I mean, when Lon Chaney turned into a wolf man, he would still have his clothes on. And he would just come home, bare feet.
Now, and his body shape didn't change as much, so I think it depends, on, I think werewolves in the time of spandex are doing much better than werewolves in the time of linen.
There you go. If you find out that you've got a pentagram, if you've been bitten by a werewolf, you better get a lot of spandex clothes. Of course, the Incredible Hulk would look terrible in spandex. So they come across a pub in a village. The Slaughtered Lamb is the name of the pub. And there's a werewolf head on a spike on the sign, which makes no sense at all to the guys from America. But hey, it's an English pub.
To see a lamb's head on that sign, called the Slaughtered Lamb.
You would think. So they go in, and they are now. I've always been told that when you walk into a pub like this and you're from a foreign country, they really embrace you. They take you in. They joke and kid with you, and these guys get a horrific reception in this bar. And if you look to the left there, that's Rick Mayall, of all people. I just found this out today. I was looking at the credits. I'm like, you're kidding. Rick Mayall was in this. He was in The Young Ones. He's a comedian. He's done a lot of stuff. Passed away a few years ago. But that's him on the left. He's the other chess player. The guy on the right is our main antagonist here. He just really does not like foreigners.
Not a friendly guy.
Not at all. That's enough.
But there's also, when you go in, like you had the shot of that bar setting. There's a big pentagram on the wall.
Yes.
And that's
kind
of an indicator. I think if you wander into a place like that, just wander out. Just go.
Yeah, you don't want to stick around for too long.
How can you miss those bad vibes? I think this wholly sets up the dumb American tourist trope, which kind of just keeps going. Why would you say?
Yeah, that's, I think, 2 slides down the line here. That's the barkeep, the person that probably owns the place. Nice dart game going. But look at the looks on everybody's faces when these guys walk in. There's the pentagram. Yeah. Back up 1 slide there. There it is with candles around it and looking very occult.
Very much so. Now that is right side up. So that would be a pentacle, right?
Okay.
Or does it have to have a circle around it to be a pentacle? I think a pentagram is it upside down with the single star at the bottom, the single point at the bottom.
Okay.
Because then it kind of looks a bit like a goat head with the horns and the ears and the snout. That's upside down. Right side up, that should be kind of a symbol of protection, and maybe that's how they mean it there.
Okay. And again, when we saw, and they're talking about it in this movie as well, that it's from the Lon Chaney film, The Wolf Man. He has one, I think, on his chest when he got bit on his chest. And he sees it in the palms of people he's going to kill.
Yes.
Or the werewolves like Bela saw it in the hands of the people that he was reading their palm. He was going to kill them that night. And it was right side up, I believe.
Well, what's right side up when it's in your hand?
Yeah.
Right side up to them, or is it to you?
Point taken.
So, but that pentagram in the hand carried over to one of my favorite werewolves, the werewolf from the TV show Werewolf, which was on in the 80s, which only got made because this movie did so well. Okay.
And Chuck Connors was the bad werewolf in that, right?
He was. They set you up the whole time thinking that he was the big bad, and then turns out he wasn't.
Oh, okay.
So I've just ruined the whole series for anybody who bothers to watch it.
All right. So they decide, let's move on. It'd just be better to move on. And the people are telling him, stay out of the moors, stay on the road. God be with you. And wow, it's just like, wow, that was just very awkward. And of course, the moon is full and out now, and they immediately walk off the road. They don't feel it under their feet, evidently, but they walk off the road right into the moors.
Now, do we have time for you to mention something here?
Sure.
There are several creatures, all right? So like paranormal entities, whatever you want to call them, black shuck, padfoot, guy trash, and they are all big dogs. They're big spectral dogs of some kind. Kusith is another one. And mostly what they're known for in England and Ireland and mostly northern France, parts of France. But there's some that are very English. You're walking on the road and the big dog comes out and mirrors you. It follows you. It won't go on the road, but it watches you and it keeps eyes on you and it mirrors you. So if you step off of the road, then it gets you.
It can get you.
Yes, but you have to go off the road for that to happen. And that's probably some kind of a nursery bogey.
Okay.
Just a creature meant to keep children in line, stay on the road.
Yeah.
But also, I live in the country in Texas. It's dark at night. It is dark. And, I'm about an hour away from Dallas, so I've got some light pollution.
Mm-hmm.
If you are walking and there are bog situations, then absolutely, if you go off the road at night, you could certainly drown, die, problems, hypothermia,
Yeah.
So it is creepy, but it's also just solid advice.
Yeah, true enough. There they are fighting amongst themselves about why did we let those two guys go out there? We know what's out there. And of course, the bald-headed guy, he doesn't care. He's like, we need to stay here. So there it is. The chess player, Brian Glover is the actor's name, who plays the bad chess player, the mean chess player.
Okay.
So this is where they actually hear what's coming after them now, which definitely sounds like I don't know. Does it sound like a wolf?
It's a mournful cry. It's a little Baskerville-y. It's a little bit of a coon dog wail. I would not say it's super werewolfy at that juncture. Mm-hmm. They weren't trying to hide that it was a werewolf because it was, hyped as a werewolf movie. But it could have been a little more wolfy, but a single wolf howl, when I first heard that, sounded very different than the Wolfman howling that I, was accustomed to with Universal.
Yeah. So David falls, and that's a kind of a false scare. And of course, when Jack, his partner, goes to pick him up off the ground, he's attacked. Can we go back just a second, a couple of slides? David runs away from him actually and runs back. But Jack is attacked by something, again, very fast, very quick, hard to get a shot of the thing, very dark. And when he goes back, this is what he finds. This is Jack on the ground. He's all covered in blood, scratched up. And then the werewolf. Well. I'm sorry.
He's not doing well.
Yes, and the werewolf attacks David and scratches his face and scratches his chest. Before, and you can see it's very, very blurry. You can't really. It's like a picture of Bigfoot. You can't really define it.
Bear. Like if you said that's a bear attack, I would say yes.
Yeah. I don't think they have bears in England, though, do they?
Not anymore.
In the moors. So the villagers do show up and shoot the thing. And he looks over and sees a naked old guy shot up next to him. My
least favorite kind of old guy, by the way.
Oh my God, he's got hairy nipples. Anyway, what a thing to pass out to. That's going to be in your nightmares until you wake up in the hospital. But luckily he wakes up to a hot nurse, Jenny Agutter. Actually, he's still asleep here. The doctor comes in to check on him. Dr. Hirsch, played by John Woodvine, a fine British actor, has done a lot of TV, and it was very, very good in this.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff.
I've seen him on Danger Man, Doctor Who. He's done a lot of stuff. And Frank Oz, of all people. Frank Oz shows up in a lot of John Landis stuff. He must just like Frank Oz. And, David is concerned about Jack, and he's kind of panicking a little bit, and they have to sedate him. And we have the two police officers from Scotland Yard who show up, or detectives, I should say. And look at the guy's tie. How can you miss that? And they're very kind of ineffective, and the big guy with the tie mess up is bumbling. You know, he's knocking stuff over, and I mean they're setting their character up as being pretty ineffective. So the doctor Hirsch actually does better investigating than they do, and David is having nightmares of running through the woods and killing deer and eating them.
Now, see, you call that a nightmare, but that's really a matter of perspective.
You
know, to some that might be a good time.
Okay. And he's not hungry, so the nurse, you know, they're setting up the relationship between the two of them. She feeds him, and a lot of nice looks and coos between the two of them. And again, he dreams about being out in the woods. Again, I could call it a nightmare. He wakes up with a werewolf face, and actually it looks more like a vampire face.
Well, and you have a picture of that, right? Of his
right
look?
Next. Yes.
Okay. So that next look is one of my favorite looks from the movie. That's a really solid makeup for such a tight shot. One of the things
Can we go to that next slide?
One of the things that this is really good at, and this is really subtle, but it's nice. I mean, it hits all the right notes. I think eyes and teeth are where it's at as far as monster creation kind of is.
Right.
And what this movie is really good at, short scenes, really good monster looks and effects, just a punch that are a little bit off of the main story, like the like this dream sequence. And the makeup, it's the Paz makeup kid, you know, it's white face and black eyes, you know, big panda eyes, but it has nice teeth in and nice contacts.
Yeah. Again, like you said, it's very simplistic, but very effective.
One of my favorite Wolfman looks is actually the Ozzy Osbourne cover, where he you know, Bark at the Moon.
Yes.
That's a terrifying look. It's just teeth and contacts and a hairy Ozzy.
There you go. So the doctor's worried about him suffering from, you know, trauma. He tells the nurse to keep an eye on him when he sleeps, because she has told him that he's been having nightmares. She reads to him. Again, they're establishing a connection between the two of them. They're going to have a romance later. So it's very subtle. And this is where he has probably the best dream in the movie, where he's back home.
Powerful imagery in the dream. Yeah.
Yes. He's back home with his family. They're in the living room. His mother's in the kitchen. He's at the dining table doing some college homework, probably. And then they get a visit from.
When in doubt, Nazi.
There it is. Doorbell rings, and it's the Nazi werewolves.
My least favorite type of werewolf.
Because they just shoot up the whole place, you know? They didn't even ask for papers. They just come in, start slitting throats and shooting people.
Very weird dream sequence.
Yes.
It's not ever addressed. There's not like a knick-knack or something that triggered it. Nope, just not. Yeah, let's do some Nazi werewolves.
Now, the bald Nazi werewolf that cuts his throat, I love that. I think they made a mask of that, actually. And I really dig that. I don't know why.
It's a really nice look.
So he wakes up from the dream. And then we get probably the best impact scare of the movie. He wakes up from the dream, and the dream's not over yet. Because when she goes to open the window, the werewolf another one of those Nazi werewolves pops out and stabs her multiple times. And he wakes up again.
That's actually some good looking blood. But the effects are top notch. The effects are amazing. They sometimes you don't like a werewolf or an effect because they didn't get across what they wanted to. I think in this movie they made exactly the werewolf they wanted to. They made the effects exactly the way they wanted them to look. It's just not my favorite look for a werewolf.
Right. The next day he's having breakfast and Jack shows up. and he's wondering if it's real. Now, the reason I put this slide in here is because that's the last time we see Jack's face on the right-hand side. And there's no real scratches on the face. There's a lot of blood on him. But you can see how ripped up his face is in this other makeup in the hospital, which is a great makeup. It's a great makeup. Go ahead to the next slide.
Maybe they don't have great corpse handling procedures. And he was just messed up in transit.
They pulled him into the meat wagon with a claw.
Because the werewolf was already dead. It was already shot. So it didn't come back and do more damage.
Right. I mean, come on, look at that. I mean, we didn't see that before. What the hell?
That's true.
He is all torn up on the neck there.
And if they had just done it on the other side, we didn't really even see that side of his face when he was laying down. So maybe it could have been.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to show a slide here of the last shot that we see of Jack, which was on the ground from the other side. Oh, wait a minute. I thought I did. I guess not. Oh, we're going forward. Go back a little bit. There we are. That's it. And again, he looks more mangled there, actually, from the other side.
On the next slide where he's laying on the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, well, make up your mind. Was his face mangled or not? And then the nurse comes in because he's panicking. He doesn't know if Jack is real or not, and he uses the incident to get a kiss. And now that's it. It's done. It's a done deal. They're romantically involved. She's taking him home the next day. He's a lost little puppy now, and she's taking him home for the day.
What a magical time that was, before cell phones, before email, because honestly, without a way to contact his family or whoever, he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah,
he's going to get that figured out.
So I'm making fun of the punk kids on the tube train.
That's not the best idea.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't get clubbed like a baby seal.
He's kind of
and she thinks it's very amusing in this next slide. You can see her just smirking.
Yeah.
Look at them. They're all pissed off. She's laughing her ass off. Yeah, I hope you get your butt bait. Come on. So she shows him the tour of the house when they get there, and they are immediately in the shower. I mean, it's seconds. And that's when Jack shows up again. And this time he's a little green around the gills.
Yeah, he's continuing to rot.
He's continuing to decompose. His genes look great, though, in all the scenes.
It's a good way to flex your makeup capabilities.
And I'm wondering if they buried him in his, it's a closed casket funeral, and they buried him in his jeans and his Morris jacket. But anyway, just hypothesizing. These are very dark. I'm sorry. The darker scenes is harder to see. But he's talking to Jack. He's like, "You're just a walking piece of meatloaf. You're not here, blah, blah, blah." Jack is, it's very funny. He's got a little Mickey Mouse. He's, "Hi, David." It's amusing.
Yeah.
And that's when Jenny comes in his New York t-shirt, looking very hot. And, everything's okay. Now, interestingly, the doctor, not getting really a lot of answers about all of this trauma that Jack is going through, he goes to the little pub, the Slaughtered Lamb, and he goes and talks to the people. And he gets he gets a very cool reception at first, or he gets a very warm reception at first. And then he starts talking about what happened there. And they realize, oh, he's going to ask questions about the werewolf thing. And so things cool down real quick.
So in England, they don't have as rich of a werewolf tradition as France. France has a huge werewolf. Just historically, they really went after the werewolves. And England did not, but they have big cats. There's like phantom big cats and mystery big cats that are kind of all over. And one of them is the Beast of Exmoor. And if you haven't heard of the Beast of Exmoor, look it up. It's kind of like a big Black Panther that people just keep seeing. And, like game wardens have seen it there. But it doesn't exist. It doesn't actually exist. Everybody says it doesn't exist until you see it, and then it does. And him going into that pub and talking about it, that always gives me big like Beast of Exmoor vibes, because he's trying to track down what animal did the killing. And there's no big predators in England. There's no predator animals in England anymore. So it's this feudal chase.
It's ironic that you say that, because Rick Baker, who did the makeup for this, ended up doing the makeup for Michael Jackson's Thriller around this time. And he did Michael Jackson turns into what I think is kind of like a werecat.
It's a big werekitty, yes.
Yeah. So I find that kind of ironic. Also, you mentioned France being more into werewolves. The sequel to this, American Werewolf in Paris or France. Is it France or Paris?
We're not going to talk about that.
The werewolves were terrible.
It's in Paris. Yes. It's in Paris.
They're terrible CGI looking werewolves. They're horrible. And of course it tanked. It bombed at the box office because of that. The people were just like, that's the werewolves? Really?
But there's a really good song in that movie by Bush called Mouth. If that's what it took to get us that song, then it's probably worth it.
So as Dr. Hirsch continues to question, and it's obvious he's questioning, one of the guys decides he's going to go outside, and they try to keep him inside because they think maybe he's going to say something outside to the doctor when he goes outside, and that's exactly what happens. I got to tell you though, there's a continuity gaffe here. John Woodvine drinks half of his drink, as you can see here, half of his beer, his stout. And then it fills up again. He's got a magic glass that fills up. So that's probably why the guy across the table doesn't want to play chess with him. He's pissed off about his magic glass.
If you're trying to get him to stop asking questions, I think a few extra glasses of Guinness will do it.
There you go. Magic glass. Outside, yes, the dart player decides he's going to tell him about the werewolf. He says, what happened to that boy did happen. It was terrible. And before he can say werewolf, our friend, the chess player, comes out, Mr. Glover. It's enough. That's enough.
So most werewolf movies fall into something called folk horror. And that is, normally it has something to do with the old ways or old things. And normally it involves an entire town or entire village who have some kind of a dark secret. And that really set this up. This was at the end of like the big folk era genre, which was really the 70s. So this is like on the tail end of that.
Right.
After. But this is very much a folk horror element, where all these people know what's going on, but they won't tell you what's going on because you're an outsider.
Right.
And it's a nice element to make the viewer feel like they don't have any help.
Well, and it makes you wonder, are there more werewolves around here? Because if that was the only werewolf in the town, they probably would be okay with, again, I guess they would be embarrassed. Okay, we had a werewolf, but he's gone now.
Well, and they got together and they killed it.
Right. Which I guess they didn't know who the werewolf was. I don't know. It brings up a lot of questions. So the guy runs off, the dart player runs off, and the doctor is just more intrigued by the fact that this whole town seems to be, involved in something that they won't really talk about. And it's kind of confirming David's story. And this is what they face. So she's off to the hospital. She's leaving him home for the day. And he's in his New York t-shirt now. And he gets barked at by a local dog. and some creepy little girls. The little children, they say, Mum.
Yep, they're creepy.
And he gets locked out. So he has to find a way back in. He finds his way back in through a window. But before that, the local cat hisses at him, telling us that something has changed. He's not liked by any animal in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that's part of, as a werewolf is coming up, one of the ways to show that is to show other animals reacting and just showing that their senses are maybe a little more and better than ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he gets in through a window, and he's not hungry. He says that a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And he's checking his fangs in the mirror and hissing and growling at himself. He's making fun of the whole situation. Something I didn't notice before, but I did when I was screenshotting this, was the fact that he goes out and leaves both doors open, which is very convenient for his werewolf later.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it. He left the outer door open, which you'll see, I think, in the next slide or the slide after. Yeah, there he's reading. He's bored. He leaves the outer door open. He doesn't shut it, which is the door that locked him out. And he goes back in, and he leaves her door open. See there?
Yep.
So and he leaves them open for like a few hours. So he at the minute that it becomes nighttime, yeah, he goes nuts. He has to tear his clothes off. It's just, he's hot. And that's when he starts to make the transformation.
So this transformation
Yes.
is cinematically wonderful. It caused a schism. This was made pretty much at the same time as The Howling.
Yes.
They were really made very close to the same time period.
Mm-hmm.
And Baker was helping Botten, who did the effects for The Howling.
Okay.
And Botten felt it was a little bit underhanded of him to know how the Howling's change scene was going to happen, so that he had full knowledge to reverse engineer and kind of one up. This is the first one that takes place in full light. This is a well-lit room. Whereas the Howling's transformations were very blistery and bubbles. You know, a couple change-o heads of different snout sizes.
Right.
This one has a lot of the stretching effects in full light right in front of your eyes. So
Right.
instead of making a werewolf that they shoot and a guy that they shoot, they made all these stages in between for different shots, which was kind of a new concept.
And Baker actually took the Academy Award for makeup that year.
Yes.
For this.
And
it was the first time I think they offered that award.
Yeah, he didn't take the award. The effects were so good, they invented an award to give to him. So there is something for
there you
that.
are.
But he stood on the shoulders of Rob Botten to get it, in my opinion.
There you go. That's an interesting story. Again, I knew that they had done werewolves at the same time. I didn't realize that Baker had helped out with the other werewolf movie.
I think that each one is mentioned in the reel of the other. Yeah, as a credit.
And I believe The Thing, which Bottin did awesome effects on as well, was before this, like a year or two before this.
Yes, because Rob had a shop that he would hire a bunch of others, and Baker worked for him for a little while.
So the werewolf goes out easily because the doors are open, and in that neighborhood, there's a couple that are trying to scare people that invited them over for dinner, and they get a scare of their own. The doctor is telling the nurse, I'm really worried about that David, and she has to admit to him that he's at her house, her apartment. And He also kills 3 homeless guys that are they're underneath the London Bridge.
It is not safe to be a hobo in a horror film. I'll tell you that.
You're out there in the elements, free and open to any monster that should happen to come along.
So are you about to name these guys?
What's that?
Are you about to name these guys? Because
no.
The one on the top right, he is in all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
He was like the old geezer of the 80s. If you needed a geezer, you got him.
Okay. I'm looking for them now. They're probably in the 3rd slide. Alf, Ted, and Joseph, I'm guessing, are them. Sidney Bromley, Frank Singwenu, and Will Layton.
I'd have to look up which one is which, but the guy in the top right with the beard, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff.
Okay. Well, that's probably Will Layton. That's my guess. Could be Sidney Bromley. Alf, Ted, and Joseph. And there's only one other guy, and that's the guy that's going to be killed in the tube. Which, having been there and in France, they have these tube trains that are underground trains. And again, when you're in those stations, it's a maze down there. It's just kind of scary. Like, where am I going to get out of this place? So let's go ahead and move forward to the next victim. This guy, and he's in one of those tubes. I mean, this is exactly what they look like. And
can you go back to that last slide? What movie advertisement is that for?
Go ahead and tell me, because I can't see. It's on my phone.
It says a nonstop orgy. See you next Wednesday. Like,
what? Oh yeah.
What is that?
That's in the theater that the werewolf ends up in at the very end of the movie with Jack.
That shows up again in the movie theater.
Yeah. See You Next Tuesday was actually something that Landis used to always kind of throw into his films as a kind of an Easter egg. I'll see you next Tuesday. And for some reason in this film, it's see you next Wednesday.
Gotcha.
So, and here we see the werewolf. This was actually the creepiest shot of the werewolf, I thought, was when he was creeping up at the bottom of the escalator there.
Yeah. And that's where you really see, and you can tell that he's a quadruped, and it's just different.
Right.
It's so different from most takes on werewolves. It's a beautiful looking monster.
Yeah.
I don't feel it's werewolfy enough.
It's not a wolf man.
Yes, it almost feels like it is a
big dog.
Yeah, what did they call the wolves in Game of Thrones? Dire wolf. It's almost a dire wolf.
Dire wolf. Interesting.
Yeah. Which was a prehistoric creature. Well,
and again, in the dare I say it, the Twilight movies, the werewolves were just giant wolves.
Yes. Yeah, they're just big wolves.
They're just big, giant CGI wolves, and they looked okay. But when you think werewolf, you think something that's something to get back up on 2 feet and scare the hell out of you, and rip you apart.
Yeah, I want the Krynos form werewolf. Yeah,
understood.
Yeah, that's what I want.
So he wakes up in the zoo, and he's naked, and he's in the wolf cage, and the wolves are not, messing with him at all. He's one of them. And again, a lot of nudity here, in front of children too, and old ladies. He takes balloons from a child, and one of the best character lines in a movie ever: "A naked man just stole my balloons."
Yep.
And he steals
there's a ton of comedy
jacket
in this movie. The movie is hilarious.
Yes, Landis put his own spin on it, and there was a lot of comic scenes and lines. But it's very scary. It's still a very scary movie. So he snags a woman's overcoat, and he makes it back to Alex's apartment. Her name is Alexandria, I guess. And he just feels great. He's had a wonderful night. He's fed. And the doctor calls, and he knows what's going on. You can see it in his face. All right, will you get him into a cab and get him over here? Come on. And they do get into a cab, and the cabbie ruins the whole thing. Did you hear about the murders last night? Six people got slaughtered. So David's running. He's getting out of the cab. He's not having anything. I kill people. You got to arrest me. He's trying to get a cop to arrest him in the square there. And he just go ahead.
I can't wait for the werewolf treatment where they just go, man, this is awesome. I'm going to go kill some more people because I really enjoyed that. There's always this inner turmoil. And I think the closest that we get to that, there's a werewolf movie from the 90s called Cursed. Not the new werewolf movie called Cursed, but there's one in the 90s.
No, you're talking about the Christina Ricci one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that werewolf really enjoys being a werewolf.
Yeah. There you go.
And that werewolf at one point gives the middle finger to people.
Well, and again, you would assume that if you get the powers of a werewolf or a vampire, yeah, you could embrace it, and it could take advantage of it. But yeah, like you say, in the earlier werewolf movies, it's about, hey, I have a conscience. I don't want to kill people. This is terrible. I don't want to do this. This is a curse. So he runs off. The detectives show back up, and they're waiting to find if something can happen, or if they can hear from David. He calls his family from one of the red telephone booths there, and tells his younger sister, to tell everybody else that he loves them. He's going to try to kill himself, and he finds he can't kill himself. He doesn't have the strength to do it. And he looks across the street, and there's Jack. Jack is really decomposed now, too, by the way.
Yeah, it gets worse and worse.
Yeah, and it's at a porno theater. And again, See You Next Wednesday is the name of the movie. And Jack says, "Come on in."
I hate to interrupt,
okay,
but the reason why that hobo stuck out in my head,
yeah,
he was the assistant to the wizard in Dragon Slayer.
Okay,
remember the old guy in Dragon Slayer? He was in
I remember Dragon Slayer.
He was in
Ralph
Never
Richardson.
Ending Story.
Okay.
He's just been in a ton of stuff.
So is he Will Layton or is he Sidney Bromley?
Sidney Bromley.
Sidney Bromley. Okay. So he was Alf.
Yes.
All right.
But sorry about that. He was.
Oh, no, that's great.
The
real surprise in that, though, Dragon Slayer, is that Peter McNichol, who went on to become a comic performer, is the hero in that. Right. And he went on to be in like Ghostbusters 2. Ooh, why have I wake up with goo on me? And he was on Ally McBeal. And, so you don't think of him as being a heroic kind of character, but he was a lot younger in that.
Yeah, leading man and then into character actor. He just took it off.
So they go into the porno theater watching porno, and all the other people show up. He basically says, look, because the werewolf line needs to be severed. I forgot to mention this earlier. You got to kill yourself, David. Otherwise, anybody that you kill, they're going to be in limbo. They won't be able to go on to the other side, like me. And so he introduces him to all the people he killed the night before, the 6 people, which is very awkward. And you can see his teeth there.
This movie is one of the first ones to do that.
It's the only one, isn't it? I don't ever realize.
It's popped up in a couple other things since then.
Since this has come out. But I think this is a John Landis thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think this is something that he brought to the table.
Yeah. I don't think I've read or heard about that in a werewolf curse ever before. It does
help justify the torment a little bit, the personal issues.
Yeah. So I think the first one he meets is the guy from the tube train. And of course the couple, there he is. The couple, they're very happy and polite, very British. Oh, hello, hello. And they're covered in blood, which is funny. Oh, it's no problem. He of course is very upset. The three homeless guys are extremely upset. They're coming up in the next slide, I think. Oh no, that's the happy couple. We're going to the dinner party.
I forget what movie it is, but there's a movie where Chevy Chase is driving a car and he hits a British person on a bike, and he like hits him like several times, and the British person apologizes every time, and that's kind of what their whole attitude reminds me of.
There they are. So yeah, they're not. None of them are happy. And the moon comes up, so he starts to change in the movie theater, and they're all gone then by that time. And the usher. Oh no! As he's changing, one of the guys that's in the movie theater goes over to watch him.
Yeah.
Just kind of okay. Is this your thing? And the nails in the chair, the nails coming out of his nails, was kind of interesting. There it is. And he's changing right in front of the guy. The guy doesn't move. So the usher goes in.
He's in an adult movie theater, so you never know what's going to happen in there.
There it is. Now he's not ripping his clothes off, ironically, like he was before. But evidently he grew out of them, because there he's the giant quadruped scarfing down the guy that was watching him.
And that's kind of like it feels very like short-faced bear to me. That's an extinct bear species.
Yeah. Well, there's one slide I got a really good shot of him on the street, and I mean it took me forever to get it because it was so fast. But he does look very bear-like. You know, his ears are back, and they look like a bear's ears instead of pointy wolf ears. And he does look
monster.
very bear-like.
I believe it can do damage. And this whole next bit of the movie, it almost collides a werewolf movie with King Kong, because he's so just out of his elements. You know, the first time you see the werewolf, he's in the moors, he's in the field, he's in the countryside, and that makes sense. And then, boom,
but now he's in London.
Now smack dab in the middle too.
Yeah.
Crazy.
He's in Piccadilly Circle. All right, so there's a good shot of him in the dark there. The police come in, and they shut the place down. They bring the protective door down in the front, and the more police show up trying to keep the thing from getting out through the door, and it breaks right through. Just as the detectives that we've seen, the ineffective detectives show up. And so it busts through the door. That should be the next slide. Nope, that's when the detectives show up. There they are. And he busts through the door. There he goes. Now, this was a big hand puppet that I saw this in scenes, behind the scenes, that Rick Baker was using to bite this guy's head off. There we go. That's a big hand puppet that Rick Baker is working from behind with two hands.
And it's beautiful. It's beautifully done. It's beautifully built. The hair work is amazing. Yeah. I'm so glad that won an Oscar.
Yeah. So bites his head right off. Take that, Scotland Yard. And we got that. And this is when the woman screams. That's when the pandemonium completely begins. His head rolls out into the street. There we go. That's where he looks very bear-like.
And what you don't see is that one there is a performer with their head down, and they're kind of walking, and their legs are in this like wheelbarrow apparatus.
Oh,
so for those shots, that there's like big bike wheels back behind it. For those shots, he's only shot from like the waist forward. But really nice job of breaking the human form. I just feel, again, it was a little bear-like.
And again, there are all kinds of accidents happening here. People getting run over, buses spinning around. And, this is John Landis, as we know from the Blues Brothers movies, he likes to destroy cars. So a lot of cars smashing into each other, smashing into police officers, people, falling through windows. And the werewolf is just, like you said, he's confused. He's running around in the streets.
He's King Kong.
Yeah. So the doctor wakes up the nurse and says, hey, something's going on down in Piccadilly Circus. They take a taxi down there. She knows they're going to kill David in whatever form he is. They think, he could be just a lycanthrope guy. He thinks he's a werewolf. They don't realize that he's really turned into, a big dog. So she manages to get through the crowd. She kind of stumbles over a few police officers. She gets through the crowd and she walks up to him. And there he is. He's in a dead end alleyway there, and he goes for her, and they shoot him.
Can you go back to that frame? Does that not look like a Patterson film Bigfoot in the background right there?
Wow. I can't see it.
It looked just to the left.
Okay, just to the left. Yeah, I
see. Yeah, it looks identical. It's like over his shoulder. It's exactly the Patterson film, almost exactly.
I see what you mean.
Bigfoot would show up in this.
This just
again, you know about all things furry, so
I have.
By the way, we're doing a Loch Ness monster next week for Major Hazzard.
The world's smallest Bigfoot right here. A little tiny Bigfoot. So you can see the silhouette comparison. Right there.
Somebody gave you that as a gift, I bet.
Yes.
So they shoot him. Bigfoot goes, okay, it's over. I can go home now. And Jenny is shocked when it turns into David. By the time they get down to the end of the alley, he's already back to David being naked and shot. There he is.
That's the cycle of life. In the end, you are the naked old man.
That's it. So yeah, I mean, again, this movie was fun to watch. Again, there was a lot of comedy in it, like you said. It was scary to watch. A lot of good scares, a lot of impact scares that really worked. It had things that no other werewolf movie has had. Werewolf Nazis. But like you said,
amazing visuals.
The werewolf, when it comes down to it, it's not my favorite werewolf either, but it works. But yeah, I wish it had been more like the werewolves in the TV show that you said.
Yeah, those are good. There's a movie called Bad Moon with Michael Pare. That's got a really nice looking werewolf in it. It's a little later.
Okay.
And then my least favorite werewolf.
American Werewolf in Paris.
Well, I don't even count those. I never have to argue to say that's not very good because everybody's like, yeah, that was terrible. Dog Soldiers.
Okay, yeah, we talked about this before. Yeah. And I would love to do that one on this because this is another London werewolf or another English UK werewolf movie, and I don't have as much of a problem with those werewolves because they are on their hind feet, which I like. They're big, but I, I'm pushing it on the back burner because you just hate it so much. You don't like it.
It's not a bad movie. I just don't like the look of the werewolf. That's all.
So it'll probably be in like season 5 if we get that far.
Okay, all right. I'm here for you when you're ready.
Thank you so much for being with us again, Alan Hops. If there's anything you need to plug right now, please do it very fast. And we're almost at 7 o'clock.
StiltBeastStudios.com. We're about to launch a bunch of monster cams. People can come and make masks with us here at the shop. So
awesome.
I recently purchased a big haunted house, Dark Hour. So now I've got this great facility. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us again. We always enjoy having you on the show. You always have such insight, especially into werewolves.
Thank you very much.
And no icing with Rita. Yes, thank you, Alan. We always love having you. Standing invitation to you. It's always a much better show whenever you're involved, just because you're such an expert and such a professional. We love you.
Well, thank you.
Everybody stay tuned. We got No Icing with Drita. It is Bob Ross and Friends is going to be joining Sandy D. And it's going to be Smokestack Betty, Jess Cantley, and Bob Ross himself. So come on, hang
All
out.
right.
Just
And I heard that Roland Pruitt is going to be there too, the kaiju artist.
Roland Pruitt.
Pruitt.
Prue. I saw it, but I couldn't say it. I saw it in my head, but I couldn't say it.
All right. Thank you, Major Hazzard, for keeping it all working and moving forward. And keep an eye out for those big monsters.
We are the last.